just acknowledge just acknowledge that the Indigenous people have had a profound connection to land and were the first sustainable designers. So I'd just like to pay my respects and really thank Sarah for the opportunity to discuss sustainability today. And Sarah, do you want to give us a little chat about Architect GP, big picture?
Yeah, look, Architect GP, we're an 18-month-old business and we're disruptors in architectural services. We want to we're a network of architects running our own practices, but Architect GP brings us all together to be able to offer our clients really targeted advice. Basically, it's like having an architect in your pocket. We want to work with you directly over Zoom, in your home, on workshops so that you can get access to architectural advice the way you get access to medical advice from your doctor. I want to normalize architecture and I want it to be easier to access the knowledge that we do have, but is often kind of behind the paywall of a big service and fee package. I want to take that away and put the information and our network to put the information where it matters. So we're all over the country because it's also important to have a GP, an architect with the local knowledge. So Louise knows all about the planning regulations and the basic systems and everything in New South Wales, along with three other architects in that region. Rebecca's all the way over in Perth. She's hosting our webinar next month. There's Bill in Adelaide, and I'm here in Melbourne with Karen and three others. So it's about having a local architect that you can get advice from in a much more transactional way and taking a lot of the exclusivity out of architecture because we do know stuff and we want people to benefit from our knowledge. One of the workshops we offer, which we're not selling today, but this is part of our mission, these webinars. And so the Sustainable Design Workshop is when we do work with our clients one-on-one and go into depth and workshop with you solutions and improvements to a design you're working on or to set up a design from scratch using the best principles. So that's what we're here and that's what we do. We want to normalize architecture and put the power in homeowners and builders' hands. You can follow us on the newsletter. You subscribe on the website. My newsletter this month was about if you had $10,000 to spend on your existing home to improve its thermal performance, how would you spend that $10,000 to best effect? So how do I make my home sustainable? Top 4 tips for spending 10K. So we want the advice to be down to earth, practical and usable. And of course, when we do a workshop, to bring in a bit of design flair too, to solve that magic where you solve multiple problems with one intervention, to bring the design thinking in. And, that's a long-winded way of saying that's Architect GP's mission, to really make architecture accessible so everyone can have an architect.
Great. Thanks, Sarah, for that. So look, everyone, I just want to acknowledge that I have been doing a little bit of training here and there, and
A
that
lot. Thank you. A
okay.
lot.
And a lot of this information does come from other sources such as Builders Declare, Institute of Architects, the Sustainable Building Alliance, the Race to Net Zero Guide from UNSW, and thank people like Jenny Edwards, Breathe Architects. So there's a lot of thought leaders, and this is a compilation of some of the information from those people. Let me know if you want any of these links or further information, and we'd be happy to provide you with more information. So over 50 years ago now, this photo came back from NASA, and gee, what a beautiful planet we do inhabit. And I think, that's just something to really think about as Elon Musk tells us that we're going to move to Mars. Well, I'm going to stay here on this planet, and I want to create a good planet for my kids to grow up in, and I think others are going to stay with me. But you will have noticed that it is getting hot, and it's hot here already. And the planet has become hotter, and we did live in a a place where trees existed, but it is now the Anthropocene era, and concrete is now more than bio mass on the planet. And I think you heard that the earth is slightly shifted because of the weight of all this concrete.
This blew me away. There's more concrete and man-made stuff on the planet now than there is organic stuff.
It is a shock.
That's amazing.
But if I think back to my lifetime and of the places and the cities and the towns that I've visited, they've all slowly changed, where land has disappeared into housing. And that's in either Indonesia, China, Wagga, going to Canberra, wherever I go, the land has disappeared and been replaced by buildings. And so that's just something to think about now. But houses are important, buildings are important, but how can we get a little bit of emphasis back on trees and biomass? I think that's one of our big challenges now. And look, I've seen this slide a lot. You probably have too, but it is good to sort of contextualize it. The building industry, I think, employs 7 or 8% of people. So it's an important employer, but it is also a contributor of climate change. And so we can do our part. And it is something that, you know, I've been working for 30 years and I did study sustainability at university, but it hasn't really been mainstream in practice. And it hasn't really been discussed amongst my clients as much as I would have thought in my career, but we are seeing a big upshift and people's awareness. So I might be alone, but I do think the industry has really kind of ignored this a little. And we have been building some of the world's biggest houses, and that's a little bit of a shock to think about. How can we live in houses bigger than, you know, you hear about the Americans, but they're 236.
The average Australian home is bigger than the average new American home.
It is
the land
quite
of the
surprising.
big, and we are bigger. Yeah.
That's right. And look,
why is that important, Louise? Why is that a key statistic?
Well, it's obviously less space for biodiversity to be on, and it's using more materials, and the planet is running out of materials. And I just think from a human sustainability, we're not really talking about the cost factor that, you know, prices have risen. Materials are 30% dearer than what they used to be post-COVID, and what the sustainable the impacts of prices of your mortgage on your lifestyle. I think that's something important. So, but how do we make a house better? I think Australian houses haven't been the best designed.
But that's the triple bottom line, and we were all taught that at uni, but it gets forgotten. You know, yes, we're here for the planet, environmental sustainability, but we're also here for social sustainability. That's connections between people at the micro, the household, and the macro level. And we're also here for financial sustainability. Bigger houses mean bigger mortgages and more stress. So at the micro, at the macro, the cost to build, the cost of running a home, smaller and smarter is beautiful.
Yes, bespoke smarter houses, I think, is what we're trying to say. Now, look, every state is slightly different. Australia is not unified, and Australia is slow to the party. But I think what we are going to see in the next few years is a significant uptake. Here in New South Wales, you know, it's not moving fast enough. I think Victoria is a bit ahead of the game. And look, we also have differing climates, and I am hearing that, you know, people in Canberra have to work harder than people in Sydney on how we design houses. So it's not equitable, but I suppose anyone who's building today with their house plans, I do think, you know, you should think about what you are seeing here, which is that we are moving towards a reduction, so that you are designing with the future in mind. And we've all got a lot of learning to do, and we've all got a lot of sharing to do, and a lot of teamwork to do in the future.
We're unified. All these states are unified at the moment by a national construction code, of which there's different standards for different states because of climate. But the thing to remember is the National Construction Code and compliance is the minimum standard, as of 2025. So when you design to that, or every dispensation you get, by the time the house is built in 2027, you're 2 years behind the standard. And when you're still living in it 25 years down the track, it's your home that you built to the minimum standard 25 years ago. So to look after your future self, as well as looking after your future environment and community, that's a hard thing when we're stressed about designing homes and the upfront costs and all the rest of it. No kidding, it's a big deal. But to think about how much your future self is going to enjoy the fact that you went the extra yard and anticipated the future, that's a gift. That's a gift you can give yourself in the future, I think.
Well, so look, this is a slide from the Race to Net Zero from UNSW and Sydney Uni, but and maybe others. But I think what it shows is that that there's easy ways we can do it once we start to really break it down and have a good look. And with energy and building size, you can start to, with energy efficiency and good lighting and shading, you can get very significant reductions, as well as the big elephant in the room, which is talking about building size, fabric, and we'll be talking about orientation. Then once we get our energy, and the grid is going green, get that on-site energy, we are it's sort of easy. So look, this is a slide from Letty from the UK. Why am I showing everyone a UK slide where the orientation's wrong? Well, I think they've got a colder climate, they've got older buildings, and they're slightly more ambitious than Australia. So I'm just sort of having a look at what Europe's doing, and look, that it's a one-page guide for consumers, and I think that's really nice to just see it in one page. But look, if it's still a little bit a lot of information to look at. So if you start to have a look at it like this, it's talking about thermal performance, it's talking about the water window ratio and orientation. So possibly in practices, we haven't spent enough time really analysing our windows. Australians love that connection to the outdoors, and maybe we have put too much glazing in the wrong spots, too much to the west and too much to the south, and maybe even too much to the north. So how do we, be a bit more scientific about that moving forward? How to shade and ventilate, again, buy energy efficient appliances, look at solar. And then I think one of the big things that we're going to start hearing more and more is collaboration and early contractor involvement, and really working with your team to reduce. And when I see it like that, I think it's actually quite achievable. How does everyone feel when you see it like that? Sustainability.
Yeah, I think it's more than achievable. It's just getting people to uptake that. I was actually touring my local window supply this morning, and we were talking exactly about this and trying to collaborate back on a design level with them about some projects that I've got coming up to talk about how we can make the wall build up more efficient, to work one with their windows and our energy efficiency for the home. It just needs to be done. I think we're at a point where this stuff needs to be uptaken by builders, architects, designers, and it can be done. There's people in the industry that like to and want to do it.
So look, what's interesting is that each stage matters, but if you get it done early on and you build smart and get the orientation right in the beginning, then that does give you a really good foundation for efficiency. But if you can start to, what we're going to say, we're going to hear this more and more, dematerialise. I thought Breathe Architects in Melbourne brought this to my attention a few years ago, and I'm still looking at ways to rethink about how I feel about interior design.
How do you define dematerialize, Louise? Just briefly, because it's not, it's a word pretty new to me too.
Well, thinking about less decorative surfaces and what, being functional with it. And maybe when I dematerialize, then even thinking about finding offcuts, marble offcuts, not buying a new slab, but using existing recycled materials purposefully. So where
Yeah.
do you need your finishes rather than
Yeah.
slathering finish like tiles or
And I mean, the classic is sort of having some of your primary structure exposed, or, you know, rather than boxing in that beam with more plasterboard and battens and
exactly.
the rest of it,
Yes.
can we install it neatly, cleanly, and then just, you know, sand and stain it? And it's
Exactly.
there.
So
Yeah.
no, look, Breathe Architects have started to expose all their surfaces. That's right. They in their apartment buildings they have the plumbing all exposed. They don't plate their taps, and they use the structure as a finishing.
Yeah, and
That's
look,
right.
and this is a thing that kind of bugs me, is that it appears in the architectural magazines and you see the image and it sort of becomes a style thing, you know, the exposed red, even the fire systems being exposed as red lines through the building, and it starts to be reduced to a style which is copied. But what's lost is that the aesthetic is a result of some really practical problems being addressed and thought about and solved. So that's the foundation for it.
And look, so you are bringing up an important thing. It's like not everyone is going to find that look appealing, but I think there's bigger things at play, and maybe we all have to adjust our taste levels, and it's also going to save us all money. It saves the client money, buy less stuff. So, but as we go more circular in our economy, hopefully recycled elements will be cheaper. So essentially, you know, that's a lot of paragraphs. But if you break it down, as we said, build less and build smart, build right orientation, look at dematerial.
How are you, my sweatery? सुबह क्यों चली गई?
Well, good.
Dematerialize, talk to the engineer. I've started to have low carbon discussions, which I'd never had before, in all honesty. I used to, and now I'm talking to the engineer early on about how we can use recycled bricks for structure and use less steel. And
yeah, you pushed an engineer to say, can we do that with a timber beam, not a steel beam?
Yes,
you know?
yeah, and that's the first time. You know, up until recently, I'd never dared question the engineer, but we're all in agreement, and so's the client. And actually, bits of timber are easier to get on site. And look, this is
it. I love this system because it says there's impact you can make at every stage of the design and specification process. And so the front end design, it's more architect, more client, and less builder at that point. But as you move through, it's like two Venn diagrams. There's some overlap as you then decide systems together. And then, you know, it becomes more builder control about where their subbies are getting stuff from as well. So, you know, it's transition of responsibilities, but everybody being on the same page and being able to make impacts at every stage of the process.
Exactly. And so, look, this is a slide that's shockingly from CSIRO in 1997 that I've only started to look at over the last few years. But what you can start to see, and I'm not really worrying about the embodied energy at the moment. I'm looking at, you know, the heaviest things have the most carbon.
Yeah, let's look where the impact, like the major elements are. Yeah.
Yeah, so if we can start to consider structure, walls, even the staircase, you know, you can start to really reduce your carbon, and then you can see lighting and power is a very significant one. And so, you know, how it all comes together. If you try and improve each one of these, you're going to make some significant reductions. So I think that's really achievable when I see it like this.
I'm surprised how high floor finishes is in it, you know, and this information's been around for 28 years.
And so flooring's a good one, you know, reusing. Why aren't we seeing more recycled product on the market, or looking at low carbon products? So I saw some projects in the UK where they're not, they're using the structural flooring as the finished product. It's basically buying less.
Yep.
So look, this is a little slide from Letty, which I think is a low cost slide about how you can do things depending on your budget. But if you don't have a lot of money, they're telling you to get some shutters, get some drapes, fix your insulation firstly in your ceiling. And obviously electrify is the big takeaway for today. Jeremy at Breathe Architects, he said to the whole industry, if you can only do one thing, it's get off gas first. And then, yeah, we're looking at drapes, not letting protecting your windows, protecting your warmth, and then insulate, whether it's floors, walls, and ceilings, how much money you've got and where you can action it. So when I see it like that, I do think it is helpful for consumers. And this is probably where architecture needs to go. I mean, we live in the coldest houses in the world, the biggest and the coldest houses in the world. I've lived in China and I've lived in London, and I was warmer in China than I was here in the snow. So Australian houses are leaky. So I hope everyone feels inspired to think about insulation. That it's sexy. It's going to be sexy talking
It should
about
be sexy. And
insulation.
you know what else is sexy? Draft proofing. And we'll get on to that.
So this is a great slide from Jeremy. I'm a huge Jeremy Spencer. We're going to show you one of his other diagrams, but this talks about our values for insulation, 2.5 for the floors, and obviously getting your orientation with your sun, thinking about the sun, getting it in when it's winter and cold, and looking at prevailing winds. So I think that's a great diagram that we probably need to pin up and stick on our wall.
Yeah, he's got R2.7 bulk insulation as kind of a rule of thumb. And I reckon, for especially for southern, anywhere Sydney and south, that's kind of where we're at. But even the NCC puts the R value, so your insulation rate, your wall insulation standard for walls in Cobart, about 3.5, just as a minimum standard. Whereas up in Darwin, tropics, it's still 1.4 because insulation works both ways. So it's putting a blanket around something, whether you're keeping it warm or whether you're wrapping your ice cream in the towel in the back of the car so you can get it home. Insulation also helps keep things cool as well. So yeah, it works both ways.
And so, just for anyone out there who's considering demolishing, we are hearing this phrase being used a lot now, that adaptive reuse is the future, and that the best building you have is the one that's already had the carbon spent on it and has the beautiful history. This is a quote from Jenny Edwards. I thought it was brilliant. And most of us are living in single glazed houses, and that's why they're cold. So, spending the money on double glazing and low E, I think is probably...
And the next step is thermally broken frames, because you don't just lose heat through the glazing, you lose it through the frame itself. So if you're going aluminium windows for maintenance and longevity and ultimately recyclability, if you can afford thermally broken, that's another step with your double glazing.
So look, in some of my projects that are new, I've been trying to retain the buildings, but when they're poor, I have, in this case here, the house I was working with was just terrible, so just poorly made. So I gave the client many designs, but in the end they chose this boomerang shape, which is inspired by a Frank Lloyd Wright solar house from the 1940s. Capturing the sun. And I'm trying to tell my clients from early on all the sustainable principles that I'd like them to use. I did find a lot of this information out, I have to be honest, from the Breathe material guides, as well as a lot of the training sessions I've been attending over the years, and trying to talk to my clients very early on about the look and the feel, and getting them to do their homework. So hemp, I think, is really the future. CLT, eco concrete, looking at trying to repurpose Australian hardwood doors and windows if possible, hemp insulation. Krauss bricks are actually low carbon, looking at House of Bamboo, looking at air tightness, heat pumps, appliances, and tapware with the no plating from Sussex Taps, and really just trying to get my materials and approach correct. I'm sure most architects in Architect GP Service are doing the same thing. But look, I think around the world, we're seeing a lot of education about, getting insulation looking sexy. Look at this with the chunky insulation. This is in Germany, but really teaching everyone who's walking by and who's on site, putting that drawing right there on the facade so everyone feels connected to the importance.
It's a great one for the builders, because look at that. It's our drawings are our blueprint. It's what gets built. They're not just lines on a piece of paper. It represents real stuff happening on site. I love this 1-to-1 scale. It's a work of art.
Yeah, maybe I should do this more. But this project here, if anyone wants the link, is basically designed for disassembly, no glues, no paints, mostly recycled elements, and it's a beautiful little humble design, and I think this is really the future of where housing's going. And just to sort of show, some of my drawings very early on, I'm trying to sketch where the insulation is. I try to delay kitchens and think about insulation. Later on in the sketch, I did insulate this slab. But, I am hearing architects talking about when are we insulating too much because of the carbon in some of the insulation and the cost. So there's a lot of technical data that we need to really embrace about, getting it, the cost versus the thermal. That's where I think I want to head next, is learning a bit more about that. But for the moment, what I tried to do was start to get my values in and check all the performances, and I was aiming for 4.2 on my walls. And then I was just trying to have some good conversations with the builder about these ideas and run it through the client. And
on a recent project, the discussed with a builder how to increase the R value for a project I inherited from another architect. Long story, but for the external walls, what we decided was that the most efficient way was to up from the 90mm studs to standard 140s around the perimeter, so that we could fit a thicker bat instead of 2.5 bats, R3.5 bats instead of 2.5. So, that has transformed the thermal performance of the envelope, and it's a really practical builder-led solution.
Yes, amazing. What do you want to say about this beautiful slide?
Oh boy, what I want to say about this is building wrap totally matters. And look, yes, it matters if it's wrap or it's sisolation or it's sarking or it's a vapor barrier. There's technical terminology and functions, but if a building stud frame at construction should be wrapped up with building wrap like a department store present, it should be taped, sealed, beautifully done, like you could put a bow on top of it. If it's flappy, if it's got holes, if where pipes come out at penetrations, it's just flapping and it's not then taped and sealed properly. What that is this is the the axiom of your building being like a colander, and it just lets the draft permeate between your weatherboards, between the overlaps in your metal cladding, and you lose the beautifully heated or cooled conditioned air, whether that's passive or actively conditioned air, and you're almost living in a tent if your building wrap is not properly sealed. So this is about site culture, a lot of it, and about also an owner that knows to demand it and expects that standard.
Oh, well, you wouldn't be trusting that builder in the
something's off, isn't it?
That blue CSR one. That was pretty bad. So look, so Jeremy Spencer with the Australian Builders Declare have produced this checklist that I can give you the link to. I follow Jeremy now, but this is a 2-page checklist for builders and all subbies to come along and tick as they go, so that they are giving the client quality assurance. And I think this is a wonderful document for consumers to really know that they've paid, significant money and time, and will end up with a better product. And I've now put this in all my documents, and I share it with the client and the builder early on. And as Mitchell knows, young builders want to do this. And so, it's about working with the right team. And I feel like this is like a no-brainer, and I'm so happy that Jeremy shared this with and so I now just put this standard into every one of my projects now, and I know that the clients are getting what they paid for. So airtightness and quality construction. So just in summary, because I know you have some plans to go through, it's a little bit of a hard thing to maybe tell a few people, but building less and building smarter, that's where architects, I think, are really good at, is how to make sure your smaller building is, giving you what you need and works really efficiently, looking at orientation. The water window ratio is something I think we're going to get better at, reducing the glass but putting it in the right spots, thermal efficiency, natural ventilation, and getting off gas and looking at shading and dematerialize. Once you see it like that, I think it's really, it's easy to do. What do you think, everyone? And I just want to thank you for listening. And I'm happy to send some follow-up information out to people.
Definitely. All right. Well, I've got some, look, we're in the Q&A section for this last 10 minutes. And I'm wondering, I'm keen to hear questions that have come up from you. Please put them in the chat. And Louise, if you can be all over any of those that pop up. I've got a document camera next to me, and I've got some of the floor plans that you've all submitted. I'm wondering if Jane is here. Jane Birch, are you around to chat about your floor plan?
I'm here, but I didn't send a floor plan in.
Oh,
probably wasn't me. Sorry.
Oh, it wasn't you. Let's see. Anyone?
Sorry, I haven't got my camera on either.
That's okay, Jane. Thanks for being here.
Me.
That's me.
Oh, here we are.
The other Jane.
The other Jane. Welcome. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, so yeah, we've got an existing home that you're renovating, extending, with a new bedroom wing up here. So what are your maybe top 2 sort of concerns when that's brought you here and that you're thinking about in this plan?
We have actually kind of been through a process with a building designer, and we were still trying to maintain all of the living at the back of the house, just mainly for privacy from the street and, the age of our kids. And as the time has ticked on and our kids have gotten older, and I start thinking towards maybe they won't always be living in this house with us, I start thinking again about whether we could reorient the living areas to the north, and also have a little bit of the reason it does involve demolition of an extension lounge room at the back that is 3.4 by 4.7 meters. And shifting it. And part of that is also to have a master suite that could kind of be locked off. We live in a holiday area, so that might give us some flexibility to rent the house out and go traveling and still have a room that's ours. But the main thing is living in a dark home that, like in winter, the main living spaces are dark and cold, and not really open. I don't mind them being small, but they're actually quite compartmentalized at the moment.
Look, this is a great shift, and I'm aware we've got at least 3 architects in this call, so there'll probably be there'll be 6 different interpretations of how you could do various things.
Great.
But the shifting living areas to the north is a lovely idea, and I'm pleased to see that you're open to embracing a deck and a real living area at the front of the house. I think that's fantastic. It's a great community gesture too. You get to see people on the street. I wonder whether, with that in mind, this window, it looks like you've envisaged that as a bay window or some kind of window seat.
Yeah.
I wonder whether that is actually a sliding door. Like, what if the deck extended here so that your new living space here becomes, connected this way, means you don't have to use just the front door in order to get to your new living area. It becomes a social connection from the room, not just from the main entry point. And then increasing the glazing size here, you can embrace that north, of course, with the dotted line meaning roof overhang, with adequate shading of that for the summertime. But maybe that's a door to really embrace that front deck.
Yeah. Do you want me to answer? No.
Why not?
No. There's a couple of limitations. So the deck is already there. We expanded that during COVID out the front. We use it a lot. We've hosted band sessions in our front yard.
Amazing.
It's a great cul-de-sac that's really quiet. I have a mature lemon tree in front of that window.
Oh, I see.
And I don't have a lot of sun because we've got a lot of gum trees, but I have a thriving mature lemon tree, and I feel like it is constraining me quite a lot because I don't really want to lose it, but I want to keep an open mind.
You've seen those gorgeous decks, that have the tree breaking out of the deck. A deck doesn't mean obliteration. It could be a gorgeous, fun gesture at the front there, and then the lemon trees even providing you some of that natural shade to the north. Gorgeous.
Yeah. Okay.
From this two more things that I'd love, and I'd love to suggest about the floor plan. The east window through here, and I see what you're trying to do here with a secure, a sort of private zone at the back. I wonder about moving the door to the bedroom to be a cavity slider through here, opening up this throat so that you could actually have eastern glazing here. And so this neutral zone becomes much more light filled, much more open feeling to the deck, almost like a little breezeway, a little courtyard, internal courtyard coming through. And then with another pocket sliding door here, you can close off various other sections, and so this becomes more generous and larger without any loss of amenity to the bedroom behind. And then coming in the front door, Louise and I noticed that the first thing you see from the front door is the kitchen, and that maybe either a sliding door to be able to close off and give privacy to the kitchen might be desirable, or retaining a bit more of the wall here to frame an entry space.
Yeah, I like that.
In that zone, so that you just give a bit more grace. I get what you're doing here. You want to be able to open up this lounge so that you could have a sort of combined space. But let's not neglect a sense of arrival into the home and then the view through to the kitchen. And look, balancing the glazing to your south, I think might also, warrants another look. Is this big door going to be a glazed door there? Could it be a slider? What's going to work best for the ease of access to make best use of this space at the rear? And then, of course, your existing windows that get retained, can they be retrofitted dual glazed? And picking up on Louise's tips, drapes, even looking at a window furnishing strategy for those existing windows can increase the, you know, the luxury feeling from an interior design point of view, but also the thermal comfort of those rooms long term. I wondered if these were tanks. Do you have, you know, I haven't got time to talk about it much at the moment. But thinking about whole building, where can you store water on the site as well? You know, look at your roof pitches, look at your falls. Where are the downpipes naturally ending up? And yeah, as you have and open up this new, expand on the northern area, to think about the shading to this as well, so you get the balance right. So Jane, that's a lot of fun. And Mitchell's got some, hi Mitchell, you've got some similar kind of ideas in the last sort of few minutes here. I saw a theme between yours and Jane's plan here with that peninsula sort of extension out the rear. You've even got the same orientation with north to the front. So maybe a few things I've said to Jane resonate as well. So your key northern window is down here to the existing living room. You know, I wonder about opening that up, you know, and looking at specific, you know, without knowing the height, looking at a specific shading strategy, depending on where it is on the site, even a pergola kind of strategy. How can this actually be really turned into, as Jane is looking at doing and has done, to make this a warm living outdoor space connected to the house? And then from an engineering point of view, what if you had some awesome timber beams running through here and opening this up more, so that you have this space and you're making more of getting that northern light, more of that northern light right through your living area. You've already now got the north-south cross ventilation happening, which is fantastic. A flag might be, and this picks up on what Louise was saying about the window to wall ratios, depending on which orientation you're looking at. And on your west orientation, there is a lot of window happening through there. So I wonder, my question to myself is there a way that you can revisit the extent and need of that western glazing? Because that's where a lot of heat gain's going to come in. I'll shoot with one thought I had about reducing the western glazing to the bedroom sort of suite extension, which is to work on flipping the bathroom location, looking at making a more efficient bathroom, consolidating the bathroom so you've got all your plumbing together. Let's look at you know, do both bathrooms need a bath? Maybe they do. Is there a way to?
Yeah, that definitely is
That's a thing.
No, I don't. At the moment, we don't. We're looking to take the bath out completely.
Right.
And right now where that stair is, to utilize a bit of space when you originally that's where the bathroom is right now, and it was looking at removing the bath from that.
Well, you're breaking up a bit there, Mitch. I'm not getting your words very well, but I think that in terms of designing, to Louise's point about designing, I guess, smaller and smarter, I think really tightening up your bathroom design here can be really powerful, because if you can bring this bathroom and consolidate your wet areas, more efficient construction, more efficient roughing in of your plumbing, etc. So, and then all this zone becomes, so you flip, and now this space is the master suite. Maybe it can even be, you know, reduced and brought in, so you're building fewer square meters. And then what it allows you to do is move these walls, which were windows, which were on the west, and emphasize your east and your south. So although your southern windows would have heat loss, you know, we're double glazing these to reduce the heat loss, but you're blocking against that heat gain, which is a bit of a monster for comfort in the summertime. So, you know, again, the advice that I'm giving is necessarily a bit fast, a bit rough and ready, and I don't know what your neighbors are doing. I don't know how much depth you've got to the backyard, but these are the questions I'd be, you know, investigating with you to look for those efficiencies. Maybe the size of the construction can be reduced. Every square meter you don't have to build, you're probably saving $4,000 to $5,000, you know. And Louise, depending on where you're building in Sydney, it could be a heck of a lot more.
Yeah, 15 to 20.
Good grief.
But it's a nice little plan there, Mitch.
It's nice. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on here.
Thank you. We've had problems again with the building designer that we started with not understanding what I understand, and there are some aspects of that we're definitely not happy with and wanted to change. We've just put the project on hold for now, but it originated from not wanting to alter the floor plan too much from what it is currently. That's how we start with it. I would never build that house, but we're working with the budget we've got, trying to leave 90% of the existing home.
And as Louisa said, you have got the right approach for deep sustainability, that there's a lot to be gained by working with what you've got. Even in terms of character of a house, you know, I think that adds to the social sustainability of a house, how it blends into the streetscape. Maybe it's controversial for an architect to say, but not every house has to make the boldest architectural statement. It's about the people that are living in it, and feeling connected to place as well.
Well, I think L-shaped houses are very nice. I've been looking at Yornuts and designed hundreds of L-shaped houses. And I mean, the courtyards can always be really nice. So I think it's got a nice aspect to the alfresco, definitely.
Definitely. Yeah. And look, we're at time, but Zach, I've got things to say about yours too, and that your key thing, and I've circled this North Point 27 times, I think, while I've been thinking about it, is that, look, Zach has used an amazing resource that, if you don't know about it, our own Commonwealth government, bless them, in a bipartisan sense, have an amazing resource called yourhome.gov.au, and there's free floor plans for actually really neat, really thoughtful homes, 2, 3, 4 bedroom homes, I believe. And this is based, so Zach's is based on the Banksia house, which is an absolute classic. The true Banksia house is oriented with this beautiful wall of windows to due north. Zach's got the challenge that he's got some beautiful views out here, but with a more westerly orientation. So that shifts the logic of the original design. And so I think the key thing I can say here for you Zach, is to contemplate. You might look up, it's looking at high architecture, but Sean Godsall has a great language of screens and battens. So looking at, maybe you've got a system of on a like a track out here, and a system of sliding screens. So, you know, we've got timber battened panels, which you can push aside and have them stacked to the side when you want it, when it's a nice clement day, when the sun is in a good spot and not overheating the house. You can have them all pushed away and enjoy that view. But when the climate is getting harsh, when that low setting sun is starting to make this space uncomfortable, you can slide your screens back or have an angled louver system, looking at those more innovative practices to solve the problem. You know, this is where sometimes, it starts to look like fancy architecture. But the point is that a dynamic system like this, or an innovative solution, is about solving a really practical problem, which in this case, in the brief time that we've spoken, is about how do you enjoy the views and also address the orientation. And that's where some really interesting things can happen, which are actually really grounded in the science and in good design. And then, of course, planting is your friend as well to make that beautiful microclimate around the western side of your house. And
so that house is actually going out in Ararat in the Grampians, where so that westerly is towards the Grampians.
Oh, gorgeous.
So I was actually looking to build some large timber structures out there and have vines growing over the top to block that. That was my thought, but I like the screen design. I've seen that in the sawmill house.
Yeah, and it can be both, and that you've now got two seeds of ideas that, and the design work is now bringing that to the best solution for Ararat, for that block. That's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And I think
I like the Baronia house that you've used. That
the
Zach.
Banksia, the Banksia.
Banksia. Yeah, so I added the fourth bedroom. So this is an investment. So I'm actually in Torquay. We've got a block out in Torquay that we're going to build a family house, but this is a investment house, and it's like my tester for trying to build a passive and affordable house.
Great. Do you know what? Have you planned the wall thick insulation numbers yet?
Yeah, so I'm a commercial builder by trade. We do mainly childcare centres. We build in a 140 frame as standard, and we put 3.2 sound bats in those walls.
Okay.
And then R5s in the ceilings. But I'm looking to go SIPs.
Okay.
So I'm talking with Studio House, I think his name is Andrew, to do a SIPs panel house, because I've got to travel for it. So I want something that's nice and quick, get it locked up, and it's going to be really effective insulation barrier. So, and then talking to Bink as well with windows.
And you can and you will use those the roof panel systems as well.
The roof panels, Yep. So that design there, it's a 4.5 meter ceiling in that entry area, and everything else will be lower. But I'm looking to lower that and remove those overhead windows just to lower the pitch and protrude it out a bit further.
Yep. Well, I need to call time. We've gone over, and I hope that speaks to the importance and the interest of the topic, and hopefully that you've got something out of what Louise and I have been talking about this evening. So thank you all so much for being here. We'll send a follow-up. We'd love to get your feedback on today's session, because we don't. There's some info from Jane Birch for you, Zach. Popping up in the chat. I love it. Community helping community. We will be asking you for some feedback for today, just because we don't exist in a bubble. We need to know what our people and what our community is liking and not liking about what we do as well. And we'll follow up with some links and content that Louise mentioned today too. Final word from you, Louise?
Oh, it's been a pleasure to talk with everyone, and I think I'm preaching to the converted a little, and but that's great that we've all met each other, and we'll be part of a sustainable community. So that's exciting. Thanks for your time.
Spread the word, everybody. The more people that know about this stuff, the better. And Architect GP do offer a specific sustainability design review, so that we can get this sort of intelligence into people's designs at the right stage, as we've heard from Louise today, in order to make the maximum impact.
I suppose I'd just be interested to hear from Mitch and Zach. Did you know about that sustainable checklist, the airtightness checklist
from Jeremy Spencer?
Yeah, did you know about that checklist?
Yeah, I've just joined the SDA as a member last week. Been following them for quite a while. And I saw that in the resources.
Okay, great.
Today,
so you haven't used.
actually.
Oh, okay. All right. And what
Yeah,
about
just
you?
today.
Aligning, that's so cool.
What about you, Mitch? Have you used that checklist yet?
I haven't used that checklist. I didn't know it was a resource from the SBA, but implementing something very similar on our own systems. But that checklist looks amazing.
Yeah,
Definitely
okay.
have a look at it.
Great. What about you, Karen? Did you know about that checklist?
Thanks, Jane. Bye.
Sorry, I was on mute. I actually did not. No.
Oh, well, that's all right. Well, there's one thing that we all start to, really use that amazing resource from Jeremy.
Cool.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to wrap it up. Thank you all so much. Subscribe to our newsletter. We're preaching to the converted, and let's keep walking the walk and talking the talk. Thank you, Tiana, for being with us and doing all the stuff in the background. You're a legend. Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
See you, Louise. You're a legend.
Hey, just a quick question. Did a heap of people leave?
Not many, no. I think one left early, but we'd done all our stuff. We had 11 in the session.
Oh, you had 11.
Yep.
All right. Well, that went all right.
No, I think that was great. Good on you, Dales.
Thank you.
Brilliantly done.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Ciao.